Hello, this is a video for the people that took the chapter 1 through 5 test retake and didn't do real well. And so what I'd like you to do is to watch this video, make sure you understand each of the questions, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a take-home test during this school closure time, and then you can use whatever resources you need to take it again. The best you can get is 80%, but right now your scores are pretty low, and I want to make sure that we understand it. It's really important that you understand the material that is covered here, because this is the basis of the rest of the semester. These are the very, very basic things that are there. So if there's something here you don't know, send me an email and I will get back to you, and I'll do whatever is necessary to make sure that you understand it and really get through so that we can create some basic things in programming. This whole unit was just on basic syntax of Java, how to write Java code, some variables, so it's kind of like doing algebra where you have variables, and then how to print out that information and use those variables. Okay, so if there's some part of that you're not quite sure, let me know so that we can continue on from this point. All right, so I'm going to go through, basically I'm just going to fill out the answers and I'll talk about it. Then I'll bring up some code in Eclipse and I'll show you how to do it. So this video might be about 15 minutes long. Hopefully it will be able to go. I'll post it on YouTube and then send you an email. That's how you got to this point. All right. So anyway, question number 1 was just about comments, and really it's just something that is helpful for you as the user and for somebody else reading your code is to have comments. And there's really 2 types. Remember, a single line comment is just / and then you can write a single line comment. But every time you want to do a single line comment, all right, like this, all right, you have to put the // all right, a multiple line comment, all right, for the answer to this question, and both of you got this correct, but a / where you can put your name, and then you could just go down and you can put in the date, and you can go down and you can put in the unit 1 or unit test 1. Okay, and then when you're done, you put in the asterisk and the /. So, like I said, I believe both people that I'm really talking to on this particular video, you got this right. Okay, the 5 naming conventions, we still had a little bit of problems with that. Not much. One of you got it pretty right. The other one mixed up conventions and rules. All right, so what you have to remember is that the rules for naming, there's only 3 of them. Okay, so the first rule, number 1, all right, is that it is alphanumeric. And what alphanumeric means is that it can be numbers and letters. All right, and the second rule is that you can have must start with a letter. Okay, and then the third rule, all right, is that it is there could be no Java keywords. Now, this means, when I say no Java keywords start with letter, those are have-tos. If you try to name a variable that's not alphanumeric, that doesn't start with a letter, that uses Java keywords, it won't work. You'll get errors and you can't run your program. All right, the next one is what we call conventions. And conventions are just there so that we kind of all agree that we're going to capitalize things the right way. So conventions are all about capitalization. So the first convention, and I'll go down on this one and put numbers. We'll number this one here. So the first one is that classes start with an uppercase letter. All right, and then variables start with a lowercase letter. All right, and then constants are all caps. All right, so those are just the way we name it. So if it's a class name, like if we start a new class, and we always put the new class with a capital letter first. Any variable that we make, like cost or number or any kind of variable, if I say int count equals, All right, the word count would start with the lower variable. And then constants like math.pi. All right, or we're not going to use constants a lot in this class, but if you use that, you'd put it in all caps. Now, there's this other thing that we call, and it's called camel case. And when I take a variable like cost of goods sold, I might have a variable, big long variable. Well, I can't put spaces in, so instead, what I do is I capitalize the first letter of each word, and that's called camel case lettering. All right, and then the last one, and this one is the only one that doesn't involve capitalization, and that is we use meaningful names. And when we say meaningful names, I'm basically saying I want to make sure that I use names that, excuse me for a second here, my numbering is got mixed up. All right, meaningful names is I'm going to use names that, there we go. All right, I'm going to use meaningful names that mean something. In other words, it represents what the data is on, okay? All right, so like I said, one of you confused rules with conventions. The other one got all of them right, except I think you wrote just that you said start with uppercase letter. You didn't say classes start, so there was a minor deduction there. Okay, the next one now, this is just being able to read code. So we know that system.out.print and system.out.println, all right, are different because print will only print what is inside the parentheses, and then the cursor stays on that line. All right, and so I have a print, and it says x plus a comma. So that means take the value of x, which is 10, and then print a comma, and then stay on that line, and then print the y. So what it's going to print is it's going to print 10, comma, all right, and then after it puts 10, comma, it's going to put 2.5. All right, and then notice it's a print after the y. Okay, so it's going to stay on that line, and then it's going to print are the numbers. And so it will print down here on the bottom, get in the right spot, sorry, are the numbers. Okay, so you have to be able to read the lines, and you do it one line at a time. So obviously the first thing it's going to do is print the value of x and a comma. Then it's going to stay on that line and print the value of y, and then stay on that line, and then it's going to print are the numbers. So it literally prints just one line for the answer. Okay, number 4, they're saying that they have a string called school, that it has the value of chargers, and they have a string called mascot, which, or excuse me, school is Kentridge, and then it has a mascot that it has the value of chargers, and one of you wrote that information out. So you wrote string school equals, and you put Kentridge. Okay, and that was fine, but except you didn't have to do that. That's not what the question said. And then you had a string mascot equals and chargers. Okay, all right, but what they really wanted was write the line of code that prints Kentridge chargers. So we know that the line of code is system.out.println. All right, and then it's going to print school, which is Kentridge, plus I need to put a space, all right, and then I'm going to put mascot. All right, so as you can see here, I have school plus a space plus mascot. That will print Kentridge, space, and chargers. Okay, so this is the line of code. That should have been the answer, not the initialization of those. That was assumed in it. Okay, all right, number 5 says if x is equal to 10, what will be displayed from the following line of code? Remember, we have this plus plus here. So yes, system.out.println x would print 10, but that plus plus, all right, plus plus means add 1, not 2, add 1. And because adding 1 is so common, where you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right, because it's so common, it has its own special operator, and the plus plus operator does just that. It means print this. All right, now it says print plus plus x. That means add 1 to x and then print it. So if I take 10 and I add 1 to it, it's going to print 11. Now, if it was x plus plus, it would print 10 and then add 1 to it. All right, so if the plus plus was on the other side of the x, it would print something totally different. All right, okay, number 6. All right, what is the value of x after these lines? So if x equals this. Now, here we have what we call the compound operator, all right, and it's plus equals. It means take the value of x and add whatever is here. So if I were to write this out in long form, I would write x equals x plus, I can type, plus, and then in parentheses, the value of x plus 3.5. Okay, so that's what the long version of that would be. So now if I plug in the values to it, I have x equals, and the value of x is 18, so 18 plus, and then in parentheses, the value of x, 18, plus 3.5. Okay, so that's the value there. So in other words, I have 18 plus 3.5, which is 21.5, plus 18 more makes it 39. So in this case, x equals 39.5. Now, there's one little rule, and that is when you take an integer, and x is an integer, see right here it says x is an integer, so when you say x plus equals, it is assumed that the value coming back ends up being an integer. All right, so this is one little trick question here, and that means that if you take x 18 plus 3.5, well, it ends up being 39.5. Well, you can't put a decimal into an integer value, right? And so basically that means that the answer is this, and I'm going to basically just chop that off. The answer is 39. There is no 0.5 in an integer value. Okay, so like I said, that was the one question where it's a little bit of a trick question. I probably would have only taken off a point if you put 39.5, but both of you ended up and you forgot about the x plus the value. Okay, so a lot of, I think both of you put something like 19 or 21.5, something like that. You forgot about the other x. Okay, number 7. All right, what is the value of this? Now, this is just arithmetic. Right, and so if I were to work this out, and I'll just do what's in the parentheses first, so the 7 plus 3 ends up being 10, okay? And then 10 divided by, and 8 divided by 4.0. So if I take a integer divided by a double, I end up with a double answer of 2.0. All right, and then plus 2, and then minus, and you might think, well, I can't, whoops, sorry, I'm going to put an equal sign there. There we go. Minus 19 divided by 18, and you might think, well, that's a decimal number. Remember, it's integer math. So how many times is 18 going to 19? It only goes into it one time. All right, and so if I were to carry that out another step, now I could look at what is 10 divided by 2.0. Well, that is 5.0. Okay, all right, and then 2 plus 2 minus 1 is 1, which equals 6.0. And so 6.0 is the answer. That's how you would do that math. All right, and so some people put just 6, or I think one of you put 5.94 or something like that because you did this math. Remember, this math is a lot easier than it looks. How many times is 18 going to 19? It's a whole number answer just one time. Okay, all right, so let's look at number 8. Number 8, it says, what is displayed by the following lines? And we have this favorite sport, track and field. Being the track coach, that's when I use track and field. All right, but anyway, system.out.println, and what does it print first? It prints my favorite sport first. All right, so I'm going to put my favorite sport is, and now I have favorite subject dot. Now that was my mistake here. Really, I need to fix that because that should say favorite sport. Okay, and then substring 0 to 4. So remember, these index 0 is the first index, and 4 is the one I go up to but not included. So if I look at it, T is 0, R is 1, A is 2, C is 3. I go up to but not including, all right, not including the K. And so in this case, if I come down here, it doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. My favorite sport is track. All right, so you got to understand this substring method. Substring just goes into the string and takes from the 0 index, remember it counts 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that way, and go up to but not including number 4. So you go up to the K but not the whole word. So I only want that part of it. Okay, so just try to remember with the substring. Start here, go to the end. Now, if there was only one number in the substring one, okay, if there's only one number there, that would mean start at this one and go to the end. All right, number 9 says, is anything wrong with the following line of code? And describe what happens with the value of the variable z. All right, well, technically there is nothing wrong with what is going on here. All right, this is integer math. We have an integer divided by an integer, so the answer is going to be an integer. So z is correct, but how many times does 10 go into 25? Only 2. All right, so is anything wrong with this? Well, the answer here would be nothing is technically wrong. Okay, however, the answer may not be correct because of integer math, no decimals, okay, are allowed in the answer. Okay, so I think one of you made the you answered it correctly in that you said something about that it wasn't a double. All right, well, you don't have to have a double in the answer, but you probably should. It should be like 25 divided by 10.0 and then make this a double z. All right. Okay, and then finally the last one here. And this one involves writing a line of code. So it's really just a 3 or 4 line program. All right, so the first one says, create a variable that's an integer. So I'm going to go up here and turn off the word auto capitalization. So I'll make an int a equals, and we'll say 10. All right, and then I'll make a double b equals 3.5. Okay, and then I want the answer that stores the sum of the two. So it has to be a double, because if you take an int and a double and add them together, the answer has to be a double. So I'll say c equals, and then a plus b. Right? I don't really have to know what the answer is. I just need to know that if you take a and b and add them together, it'll store it in c. And then system.out.println. All right, and just print out C. Okay, so that's all that had to be done. Whoops. And Word automatically made a, there we go. All right, so that's the test. All right, and so now if there is something here that you're not quite sure of, all right, what I want you to do is I want you to send me an email and say, Mr. Wallner, I really don't understand question number, and say question number 3. All right, well then ask me for that. What I'm going to do is, as soon as I get done here, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a new test for you. And this test is for you to do. All right, do it yourself, but you can use all your notes, whatever you want. You can go ahead and make sure you get the right answer. All right, so my expectation is that I would get a test back from you. And you have to email it to me. All right, but send the test back to me, and it should have 100%, but I'll give you 80 if you have 100%. Okay, in fact, I'll give you 80 if you have 80% or more on there. It will be worth 60 points, so that way you can improve your grade. All right, and we really need to get you to do this. Also, it would be great if you would go ahead and try to read the textbook and go ahead and do lessons 6 and 7. And the problems there, and once again, send me an email if you don't understand something, and I'll try to do my best to get back to you and during this break and answer it, so that when or if we come back to school, you'll be all caught up. Okay? All right. Thanks.